The synthesis station hung in the void like a gleaming geometric jewel, a testimonial to the Valorian Collective's absolute dominion over this sector of space. 10,000 corridors, 1,000,000 surveillance points, a fortress of order, efficiency, and unquestionable authority. On this particular stardate, that authority was about to face something it had never encountered before. The docking bay's air processors hummed with mechanical indifference as the human vessel, Meridian's Hope, extended its boarding ramp. The Valorians watched with their characteristic detachment.
Humans.
The newest members of the Galactic community, barely 1,000 years into spacefaring civilization. They needed the synthesis station for trade permits, resource certifications, and most importantly, answers. The human crew descended. 5 individuals, hardened by the journey across the void. Their captain was a man named Chen. Weathered face, steady eyes, a frame that spoke of decades spent in the vacuum and in places far worse. As he approached the security checkpoint, the Valorian scanner, an elegant construct of crystalline light and algorithmic precision, hummed to life. The security officer, a Valorian whose skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns, gestured casually. Bioscan. Routine procedure, the officer said, its voice hollow and procedural, like a machine that had learned to speak. Marcus rolled up his sleeve. That's when the system saw it. Tattoo. Simple. Almost archaic by galactic standards. Black ink on human skin, positioned just above his wrist. It was a symbol that had no name in the Valorian database. No entry.
No clasification. No precedent.
The scanner paused. And then, the sound. A shriek of digital distortion that echoed through the bay. Alarms. Red lights flooding the station. The Valorian officer's biometric patterns shifted to a violent crimson. System lockdown. System lockdown. It screamed. Military record above clearance. Military record above clearance. Within seconds, the bay was flooded with Valorian security forces. Hundreds of them. Sleek exoskeletons. Weapons that could vaporize matter at the molecular level. They formed a perimeter around Marcus and his crew, and the human understood immediately. They were not here to arrest. They were here because something had terrified them. The lead Valorian commander, designation. Sentinel-7, emerged from the shadows, its form towering and imposing. Its crystalline eyes focused on Marcus with something that looked almost like fear. "What is this inscription?" it demanded, its voice reverberating through the chamber. "Identify the source. Identify the authorization signature. Identify the clearance protocol." Marcus held steady. "It's a tattoo, a military commendation. From my service." A pause. Silence so profound it felt like the station was holding its breath. The commander gestured to the other Valorians. A tech specialist approached with a handheld scanner, more sophisticated, shielded. Carefully, almost reverently, it scanned the tattoo again. The reaction was the same. The device shrieked, displayed a cascade of error messages, then initiated a complete shutdown sequence. "How many others bear this mark?" Sentinel-7 demanded. "I don't know," Marcus said honestly. "Thousands, maybe. Every member of my unit. Every survivor of the Kepler War." The Valorians exchanged glances. A gesture that transcended species. A language of pure dread. You see, the Valorian Collective had a very particular way of understanding the universe. They had conquered 17 star systems. They had assimilated 43 species into their hierarchy. They understood power through encryption, authorization, clearance levels, and authority chains. Everything in their worldview was ordered, hierarchical, quantifiable. But there, written on a human's flesh in permanent ink, was something that broke their system. Something that existed outside their comprehension. Something that their own infrastructure recognized as above them. And that was the thing they feared most. Commander Sentinel-7 made a decision that would ripple across the galaxy. "This station is locked down. No one leaves. No transmissions in or out. We will investigate this anomaly at the source." Paused, those crystalline eyes boring into Marcus. Where did you serve, human? Marcus met that gaze without flinching. Earth Defense Forces. 3rd Battalion, Kepler Sector. We held the line when the Outer Rim Coalition attacked. 60,000 of us against their fleet. We were the ones the galaxy forgot. The Valorians didn't know what to do with that information. They had no file on the Kepler War. It wasn't in any central database because humanity had fought it alone. Desperate, outgunned, and somehow, they had won. As Sentinel-7 processed this, something unexpected happened. The Valorian scientist attached to the security team, a Dr. Vassix, approached Marcus. Its form was more delicate than the soldiers, its movements less certain. "May I examine the mark more closely?" it asked, and there was something almost humble in the request. Marcus extended his arm. Dr. Vassix studied the tattoo for a long moment, and then it did something remarkable. It asked a question that no Valorian had asked in 1,000 years. Why? Why would your people permanently mark their bodies with a military designation? It serves no practical function. Creates vulnerability. Identification risk. It is illogical. And Marcus smiled, a small, sad thing. Because, he said softly, we needed to remember. After we won, after the shooting stopped, we needed something that would last forever. So we could carry the memory of every soldier who didn't come home. So we could honor what we sacrificed. So nobody would ever forget the price of survival. Dr. Vassix stood motionless for several seconds. Its bioluminescent patterns flickered, a sign Marcus would later learn of profound emotional processing. You willingly accepted permanent injury to preserve memory? It asked. Yes, Marcus said, because that's what humans do. We remember, we grieve, and we honor. The scientist turned to Commander Sentinel-7, its voice carrying a weight that transcended protocol. Sir, I do not believe this is a security threat. I believe we are looking at something we do not understand. Sentinel-7 was silent for a very long time. What happened next changed everything. The commander ordered a deep archive search, not just of human databases, but of every classified military record across every species in the known galaxy. What they found was shocking. Fragmentary records, buried logs, encrypted files that had been sealed so thoroughly that even Valorian cryptography couldn't breach them. But there was a pattern. Humans appeared in places they shouldn't have been. In the wreckage of 3 destroyed harvester stations. In the refugee transports that escaped the Meridian collapse. In military actions that had no recorded authorization but impossible results. And in every case, the soldiers involved bore a mark. Not always visible. Sometimes encrypted in their service records. Sometimes hidden beneath tactical gear. But always there. Always marking them as something more than what they were supposed to be. Commander Sentinel-7 stood in the data center, staring at reconstructed images of human soldiers from across the centuries. Soldiers who had been forgotten by history. Soldiers who had volunteered for missions that had no guarantee of survival. Soldiers who had held positions against odds that should have been impossible. They have been here, the commander whispered. In the shadows. In the forgotten corners. Fighting battles we didn't even know existed. Yes, Dr. Vassix said. And they recorded it. Not in our systems. Not in databases that seek authority and clearance. But in themselves. In their bodies. In their memories. Then, in a moment of profound understanding, Sentinel-7 asked to speak with Marcus alone. In that private chamber, 2 beings faced each other across a cultural divide that should have been unbridgeable. Your tattoo, the commander began. It does not contain classified information, does it? No, sir, Marcus said. It's just a date, a unit number, and the names of the 17 soldiers from my battalion who didn't come home. Sentinel-7's crystalline eyes dimmed and brightened, a gesture somewhere between grief and reverence. Your military system is not encrypted by physics or cryptography, the commander said. It is encrypted by meaning, by sacrifice, by the value you place on the memory of your fallen. Your systems recognized this mark because they sensed something beyond security protocol. They sensed holiness. My species has been trying to understand you since you joined the Galactic community, Sentinel-7 continued. We assumed you would follow the same hierarchies we had mastered, that you would seek authorization and power through encryption and clearance. But you are encrypted by something we have forgotten. If we ever knew it. The lockdown was lifted 3 hours later. But something fundamental had changed. The Valorian Collective issued a proclamation across 17 star systems. They announced that humans would henceforth be recognized not as a provisional member of the galactic community, but as something entirely new, a species defined by the weight of their memories, by their willingness to sacrifice, by their determination to honor those who came before. The tattoo became known throughout the galaxy as the Mark of Remembrance. Other species began asking about it. Some humans explained it. Some simply showed their own marks, carried on skin or etched into bionic enhancements, each one a story of loss and survival. As Marcus descended the ramp of the Meridian's Hope for the final time that day, Dr. Vassix walked beside him. Your kind, the scientist said, your kind is not defined by the power of your weapons or the sophistication of your systems. You are defined by the depth of your grief. And somehow, that is so much stronger. Marcus looked back at the synthesis station, that vast repository of order and authority, and understood something profound. Every civilization eventually believes its systems are unbreakable, that encryption will protect it, that clearance levels will maintain order. But humanity had discovered something deeper. You cannot encrypt loss. You cannot clear a level of grief. You cannot systematize the meaning of sacrifice. And when that meaning is written in permanent ink on human skin, it breaks all the systems that ever were. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human. Not strength, not conquest, not dominion, but memory, sacrifice, the sacred act of carrying forward the names of those we have lost. That night, across a dozen species, soldiers and warriors and diplomats all found themselves looking at their own scars, their own marks, and asking themselves what they chose to remember. And some of them, for the first time, began to write it down. If the story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars. Because every mark we carry is a story waiting to be told.